So I went through this welding table the other day. It was getting kind of scaly with a bunch of rust and stuff around the edges. It just wasn't really smooth. So what I did with the welding table was I hit down the main rust spots with the flap wheel on the grinder, and then I used 120 grit sandpaper on the spinning sander and just smoothed this whole thing out. So it's really nice and smooth right now. And then once that was done, I wiped the entire table down with some WD-40 just to give it a little bit of a protection to keep it from rusting in the future. I've got a jug right here full of WD-40, so I'll just occasionally wipe this thing down and moving forward just to keep it protected, keep it nice and smooth, nice and shiny, just like it is right now. And this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're working back on the 52 Chevy. This time we're going to be hopefully finishing up the exhaust work. We've got the header section done, the Y pipes completed, coming back to just behind the passenger side door. I bought a bunch of 3-inch muffler clamps, and those are going to be used to hook up the actual muffler. This is a MagnaFlow stainless muffler. I'm using clamps instead of welding it in place because I don't know if I'm going to like the sound. I want to be able to remove it pretty easily without having to cut everything apart. So we're going to use clamps to hold the muffler in place. Then we're going to have to figure out how the exhaust is going to shoot out the back of the truck. It's going to go straight out the back center underneath the bumper where that little recess is on the bumper. So while we're waiting for Dave to show up, I'm going to start positioning a couple of the exhaust parts around. Let's get to it. Alright, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to put the muffler in place here. We're going to jack it up with the jack just to hold it in place. We're going to try to see how it lines up shooting down the underside of the gas tank. So we're welding on some extensions to the actual muffler, being that it's a 3 1/4 inch pipe on the muffler. It was supposed to be 3 inch, but what are you going to do? So we added on this extension piece here, and then this receiving end here. So this is the front, and then this will be the back. So we're going to get this put up onto the truck right now. So here we have the Y pipe down here. Shoots down underneath the body, going into the muffler. Muffler has a slight twist to it, so I can make it underneath the axle right there. And then we're going to go out the center of the truck, so we have to figure out how we want to work that with a couple 45s or 90s to go from this point over to the center of the bumper. Here's the idea for the exhaust coming out the back. It almost looks good with just the two. You know what I mean?
I like the look of the two. And you get a piece of metal right here, and you have it put show fill.
I could do that.
Just a piece of metal right there, polish it.
You can't polish a turd, Dave.
Well, if you can't polish a turd, then you drive a Ford.
Oh.
Because you also need a little bit of an air gap too.
Yeah, I don't want it to be too tight where it's going to rub or bump or anything.
Right.
So we need to go from here into the back of this U piece. This is actually a piece of U pipe that we cut. Looks like that. And we're just going to have the exhaust pipe coped into the backside there. And that's going to be our tailpipe coming out. So from point A to point B, we might extend this out from the muffler here. And then this is two 45s connected where we can actually adjust the angle that we need to reach here. It's coming along pretty good. So here we have a different option. Come out of the muffler here, 45 over to this side, 45 around to a 90, We need to put a little spacer in here to make it centered to the actual bumper right here where Dave's head is. And then this will shoot straight out or cope in the U-bend right here. We just need to figure out how much of a spacer do we need right here. So now we've got the exhaust hanging where we want it. And we're going to air the truck out. We're aired up all the way right now. We're going to air the truck down just to see how this is going to lie, how far down we're going to be, how low we'll be.
So it's got to be the 90.
So we're just test fitting different pieces to figure out what the best way to do is. So right now I've got a 90 into another 90, shoot straight down the frame. We actually cut this one about 2.5 inches shorter to pull the exhaust in from the tire. Now it's flush with the frame. So we need to cut a little bit of a spacer right now. I'd go a little bit bigger if we have to. We can always cut it back down again, but. Oh yeah. So we're gonna cut this piece out right here. Splice it into that. So this goes on here, like that.
Yep.
That goes on there.
Oh, it's too short.
How's it way so short?
Did you measure wrong?
We could pull it out.
That would work.
We could pull that out and tack that where we want it.
Well, yeah, this you can tack anywhere. So yeah, it could be right there. That's about 1/4 of an inch in there.
Yeah. We can put that down right now.
Do it.
I don't know if these are gonna hit.
Yep. I just saw that myself.
Let's see how low you can go. Yeah, it's gonna hit. That's good enough for now. So right here is where the exhaust is actually gonna come out. I'm gonna have 2 exhaust tips coming out here. I'm gonna use 2 painter's sticks taped together, taped up underneath the bumper here to actually give this the spacing we need. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna break these in half or cut these to where I need them just to give us some spacing. Because I don't need them in the center, it's kind of bridging across. It would be nicer if they're a little bit longer. So I'm gonna cut these or break them. Not sure which, let's see what happens. That was easy. That gives us something to clamp to for spacing for the exhaust tips. Maybe one might be fine as long as it maintains. Puts us about 1/4 inch if I tape it right there. See what happens. Really just using this as something to space it out from underneath the bumper. That's all this is. So the pipe will rest up against here, giving us the perfect spacing underneath there. We'll do the same on the other side now. Now with the exact same spacing on both sides. Oh, yeah, pretty close. Just like that. Now we're going to clamp the pipe up underneath here. Sticking out about 1 inch. This side sticking out just about 1 inch. So right now that should be centered. pipe should be centered, and it should be relatively level, and they should be sticking out the exact same. So this is what the exhaust will look like from the side, just like that, sticking out about 1 inch. I think it looks really good. So the spacing between the bumper and the exhaust should be the same on both sides. It's coming together pretty nicely. We're going to actually, in the center here, we're going to cope on the exhaust pipe coming in from up here. It's going to do a 90-degree bend right into the center of this U-bend for the 2 exhaust pipes. That's what it's going to look like. So we're working on the coping right now. So I've got a template here to cope with the pipe. And what I mean by that is, this is a coped pipe right here. And on a flat pipe, this is a 3-inch pipe. It actually fits perfectly onto the pipe like this. So you can weld along that really easily. Problem is, I'm welding this for this template that I'm using. This is a mock-up of the rear tailpipe. It's like this, and then this piece will go like that. There's a lot bigger of a gap right here in this section here. So I modified the cope a little bit to not be as deep in the grooves of this, so it'll be a little bit shallower. And this is going to get mocked up here. You can see on here how I modified it. It should be this deep for a 3-inch pipe, but I'm making it about a 1/4 inch shallower, so when this wraps around the pipe, it gives us the perfect template for how we need to trace that out and cut it. This 90-degree bend here is actually going, this part right here is going to get coped to fit up to the U-bend that's already mocked up in the back fender of the truck, or mocked up in the back bumper of the truck. So this is the one we want to put this template onto. So before we do that, I'm going to mock this up on this and see how it's going to fit once it's in the right shape. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to use this one. We've already coped the one end. I'm going to put the piece of paper around it like this, just to see how that's going to work out. Just like that. So what will happen if I do cope it like this? How close will I be? Yeah, so that actually looks really good. So we're going to go with this template. I'm going to lay the template out onto the 90-degree bend. We're going to cut it out, mock it up in place, and see how it fits. So here's the template wrapped around the pipe. Now I'm going to mark the pipe where we need to cut. Got the pipe all marked right now. Should be centered straight down the top. That's where the farthest part will be. Same along the bottom. So these sections here and on the other side are the parts we need to cut out, then smooth out to cope around the U-shaped output for the exhaust tips that we're making. Got the initial cope done. We've got to do a lot of cleanup. If you look at you can still see the marker on here. That means I didn't get close enough, which is perfectly fine because the flap wheel and the grinder will actually get in there nice and easy. I'm going to test fit this to my mock-up one here. That is freaking perfect. I don't even really need to clean it up that much. So I'm just going to get the burrs off of it right now and just smooth the edges a little bit, but I think this is mocked up pretty close to what we need. So right now we're going to clean up this with the flap wheel. And that is what a nicely coped pipe looks like. This will fit nicely over the bend. This is the exhaust output, the tip, just like that. So there's barely any space around this pipe right now on any side. It looks really good. Easy to weld when the gap's nice and small. So let's go back under the truck right now and mock this up in place. So right here we have the exhaust tips going out the back of the truck. Right here the exhaust is coming in from the engine. And here we have the coped part that we made. It's going to go like that. And this thing will slide out like this. And that is exactly how that's going to line up, just like that. And it's absolutely freaking perfect. Might throw a couple. I've got to mark this right now, and I've got to cut a hole where this exhaust pipe's going to connect onto. And once I do that, then we're going to tack this entire thing into place. Here and back here. But that is absolutely a perfect cope. Couldn't ask for anything better. This is how the exhaust pipe will look. Just like that. We're going to get this marked up where we need to cut the hole so the exhaust can actually make it into the output of the tip. Plenty of room around the gas tank, right along the frame. Not going to hit there. We're in good shape, so I got to cut the hole here and then get this welded in place on that. Probably tack it in place at first just to make sure it's going to work. We'll go from there. You can see the hole we need to cut out in the actual tailpipe. I've got to take this down now so I can actually cut this hole out. So right here's the hole we need to cut out, but we don't want to cut right to the line. That'll make it more difficult. So I'm just going to mark like 1/8 of an inch all the way around to the inside. I'm actually just going to double this line up and we know we'll be good. We'll cut to the inside of the line. So I thicken the line up, so we're going to cut to the inside of this dark, thick black line on here. Then we know we've got plenty of substance to still weld to once the hole's cut. So I'm probably going to start drilling some pilot holes around here, and we'll probably end up using the jigsaw to actually complete this entire circle cutout. So we're going to start off by using a really small drill bit, just drilling some pilot holes around in here because it is curved. Got the pilot holes drilled now. Now we're going to go to the stepper bit and just start reaming these out a little bit bigger. Now that the holes are big enough, I should be able to get my saw blade into at least these two. I might have to go a little bit bigger on the top and bottom ones. The inside of the exhaust, so the exhaust comes in here and then shoots out both of these exhaust pipes. But right now we're going to clean up this hole with the 1/4 inch belt sander. Check that out. Nice and smooth. Plenty of meat to still weld onto. On acetoning this down, we'll probably just end up tacking this into place just to make sure. We have to get this lined up on the bumper again. So this is perfect with the spacing to the bumper, to the top of the tailpipe, as well as how far it's sticking out. We want to make sure that that's identical. We had it mocked up before as 1 inch, and I'm probably going to stick with that. It actually looked really good. I've probably said it before, but if you don't have this little 1/2 inch belt sander from Harbor Freight for 30 bucks, this thing is phenomenal. It gets into all the little pipes and gets in there nice and easy for sanding. Sandpaper is relatively cheap to belts. This thing just freaking works awesome. All right, now I got this all wiped down with acetone. It's ready to weld. The hole is absolutely perfect. I'm gonna set this back in place on the rear bumper, get this all set in place where we want it, and then we'll go from there. So they're sticking out 7/8 of an inch, which is absolutely perfect. I've got enough spacing above to hopefully it won't rattle. I'm gonna put a bracket up there anyway to really hold it in place, but it's spaced out right now enough to not rattle against the bottom side of this bumper, which is key. So what we're gonna do now is make sure it's slightly angled down just so the water can run out if it accumulates any moisture inside the pipe. And we're going to tack this into place. Right now we're going to mock up this. We're going to tack the tailpipe into place. This is all cleaned up nice and clean with some acetone. So So we're gonna start working on the actual exhaust hangers right now. So I picked up 3 of these from Advanced Auto Parts. They had 2 of these, they didn't have a third one, so I bought this one here. And this is what they look like when you unbox them. We're gonna modify them a little bit. We're not gonna clamp them around the exhaust pipe like shown in this picture. What we're gonna do is we're actually gonna cut these little ears off right here, and this will actually weld onto the pipe where we want it. We'll weld that around the pipe, and then this part up here will actually bolt to the frame, which gives us a little bit of wiggle room, and the pipe will be nice and secure and that won't go anywhere. It has a little bit of a flex joint right here where this can actually move, and that actually gives a little bit of a wiggle room so it's not totally rigid. So we got 2 of these and we've got 1 of these. Same idea, we'll end up welding this onto the pipe just like that. I'm thinking of putting 1 right back here like this. So 1 could go there. The other one, I was thinking of going over here. Maybe just like that. Figure those 2 out, and then we've got to come back here and figure this side out here. Thinking we want to put something on this side of the muffler back here and bolt it to there. So this is what we have going on with the pipe right now. Bolts up to the frame right there, and then we're going to tack weld it onto the actual pipe right there. And that actually fits really good, just like it is. Absolutely perfect. That's what we're going for here. So I'm going to be welding these 2 bolts holding this bracket up on the back side. Just easier to get to if I weld the bolts in place versus taking everything apart and re-drilling the holes. You're not going to see it. The bolts will be solid to hold the exhaust tip right here. And then this, the bottom of the exhaust hammer will actually weld onto the top of this pipe right here. So we have the very rear bracket bolted in place. This is what it looks like. It's going to weld down just like that onto the pipe. Halfway down here, we've got this one. Bolts on right behind the gas tank. And this will weld in place right here on the pipe nicely. And then we've got the one down here. Let's zoom in there, you can see it. And that's going to bolt in right back there and hold the pipe up. So we're going to get these tacked in place right now, all the brackets. And then the exhaust hangers will pretty much be complete. Everything will be taken apart and finish welded. There we have the rear tailpipe of the truck right here. We're going to take this over to the welding table and we're going to try TIG welding around it here and around the entire seam. See how that goes. But the seam looks actually really nice for TIG welding. So we've got a muffler clamp on this side of the muffler towards the rear. Then we got the muffler at a slight angle to make it underneath the rear axle over there. And then we've got a muffler clamp here. I did that and I didn't weld the muffler in just because this muffler might be too loud. I can always change that muffler out later if I want. From the muffler going forward, we go into a 3-inch stainless pipe. All the way up here, we've got a muffler hanger right there. Coming down over here, kind of shoots down in a little bend right here, going into the Y pipe. And there's the Y pipe right here. This Y pipe shoots up to the passenger side, and then over here and shoots up to the driver's side. Everything has plenty of clearance. Everything came out really nice. Alright, so I just had this box delivered from oshcut.com, and inside here I've got a little special treat for the truck that we're going to be welding on to the exhaust and possibly somewhere else in the truck. So let's open it right now and take a look. So OSH Cut is actually a metal laser cutting company where you can upload templates to them and they will print it out in any type of metal you want. So I sent them a little template for the truck here for my Show Phil logo. Let's see how these came out. Oh yeah. That out. This is actually out of I believe 14 gauge steel, and there's 2 of these out of stainless steel. This is going to get welded in between the 2 exhaust pipes right here and here. So unwrap this and see how it looks. This is actually 11 gauge stainless right here. Just like that. Get welded right up in between the exhaust tips. Take a look at these now. These are just out of regular steel. So these came out absolutely perfect. See it right there. Nice little accent pieces for the truck build. And I am documenting this entire process on my channel. I only felt it was appropriate to make up a couple little templates and mounts for the truck. This would be a nice little accent piece between the exhaust pipes. So right now we're going to take this plaque right here that we just had cut out that I showed you, and we're going to place it onto the exhaust tips. It slides perfectly right in here just like this. That's exactly where it's going to go right there. It came out absolutely perfect. So a huge shout out to Dave for that idea. It's going to get TIG welded on the back side into place once the exhaust comes back off the truck again. But right here is the exact reason why we wanted to use the 54 bumper turned upside down. So our exhaust isn't really hanging much lower than about 1.5 inches below the actual bumper. We've got 2 3-inch exhaust tips coming out. Looks absolutely fantastic. So as you can see, the exhaust tip has a good, I'd say about 1.5 inches off the ground when the truck is completely aired out, which is absolutely perfect. The exhaust tips are centered to the bumper as they should be. Plenty of space underneath for when we're airing the truck out, nothing's going to hit. Alright everyone, as you can see, the exhaust on the truck is 100% complete. Dave and I fabricated the Y pipe, 2.5-inch exhaust pipe going into a 3-inch collector pipe, all the way down into a 3-chamber MagnaFlow muffler, going underneath the axle, around the gas tank, out of dual exhaust tips from the back of the bumper. Everything's perfectly spaced out, level as it should be. All stainless steel. We TIG welded the exhaust. That came out perfect. We're going to eventually wrap the headers and the Y pipe with exhaust wrap just to keep the heat down in the engine compartment underneath the truck as much as possible. But as of right now, everything is perfect and the exhaust is 100% complete. As always, if you like the video, give it a massive thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, drop them down below. Smash that big red subscribe button. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got the air compressors, the air tank. We've got to mock up the radiator, the AC condenser. We've got to mock up the steering. And once all that's done, the engine's getting pulled out, heading over to Dave's house. He's gonna rebuild that thing completely. We're gonna do a ton of videos on the rebuild of the engine. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.